The stark white halls of the Galactic Council's central chamber felt impossibly vast to Admiral Helena Torres as she strode toward the presentation platform. Above her, thousands of crystalline pods house representatives from over 800 species, their varied forms barely visible through the translucent barriers that accommodated their unique atmospheric needs. This was humanity's moment to present their contribution to the Galactic Defense Fleet, and Torres refused to let her nervousness show. "The Human Confederation presents the Terran Vanguard-class destroyer," she announced, her voice steady as holographic projections materialized around her. The ship's design was distinctly human, angular, utilitarian, with none of the flowing organic curves favored by most Council species. While we acknowledge our relatively recent arrival to the galactic community, we believe our approach to space warfare offers unique tactical advantages. The first whispers began even before she finished speaking. In the Drachnid section, multiple representatives had already turned their backs, a clear sign of dismissal in their culture. The Meridian ambassador's crystalline form flickered with patterns that Torres' translator rendered as barely contained amusement. Primitive reaction drives. The voice belonged to High Commander Zixtal of the Arcturus Collective, his 12 eyes narrowing in what humans had learned to recognize as contempt. Projectile weapons. Your species still relies on throwing metal at high velocities, while the rest of us have mastered graviton-lance technology. Torres had expected this reaction, but the reality still stung. Our kinetic accelerator weapons may seem basic, but their effectiveness is limited by light speed and easily deflected by standard shields, interrupted another voice, triggering a wave of what could only be described as alien laughter throughout the chamber. The humans expect to defend galactic territories with technology barely more advanced than their combustion engines. But Torres noticed something the others missed. In the highest tier of the chamber, where the eldest races held their seats, several ancient ones were studying the Terran designs with unusual intensity. One of them, a quantum collective consciousness housed in a floating matrix of light, had shifted its entire attention pattern toward the weapon system's display. "We understand our technology may appear unsophisticated," Torres continued, keeping her voice level, "but we've achieved remarkable results in our simulations." Simulations. Zixtal's interruption carried the weight of centuries of space warfare experience. Perhaps humans should stick to defending their own system until they've developed proper faster-than-light weapons. The galaxy is far more dangerous than your simulations suggest. Torres was about to respond when her neural link buzzed with an urgent message. She maintained her diplomatic smile while reading the notification in her peripheral vision. 3 more ARC-2US ships missing in CT2R7. 2 TLDISAPPER and CES, no 820 CVN. All ADVA and CD design vessels. No debris found. "Thank you for your counsel, High Commander," Torres replied, allowing a small smile to play across her lips. "We look forward to proving the worth of our contributions through action rather than words." As she left the chamber, another message flashed across her neural link. "Ancient 1 REQUESTI AIMHI RITATAUDINC QUA and TUM QOLEC TIV representative priority leviel absolute." Torres felt a chill run down her spine. The Ancient Ones rarely involved themselves in military matters, preferring to guide the younger races through subtle philosophical and scientific advice. For one to request a private audience immediately after her presentation, her comm unit chimed again. The Third Meridian battle group had vanished without a trace near the galactic core. Their graviton-lance-equipped ships, the pride of the Council's fleet, had disappeared as completely as the others. But in the same sector, 3 human merchant vessels, operating with their primitive technology, had reported nothing unusual at all. As Torres headed toward the Ancient One's chamber, she couldn't help but wonder if humanity's outdated approach to space travel might hold secrets that the more advanced races had long forgotten. The coming days would prove just how valuable being primitive could be. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, something ancient stirred, something that found the energy signatures of advanced galactic technology impossibly easy to track, while the crude emissions of human vessels remained mysteriously invisible to its hunting patterns. The quantum collective's audience chamber defied human perception. Admiral Torres found herself standing in what appeared to be an infinite field of stars, her boots somehow finding purchase on nothing at all. Before her, patterns of light shifted and coalesced into something approximating communication. Your weapons, the Ancient One's thoughts manifested directly in her mind. They were not designed to be invisible. It wasn't a question. Torres felt a chill despite her environment suit's regulated temperature. No, they weren't. We designed them to be effective within our technological limitations. And yet, the lights swirled meaningfully. 42 ships of the most advanced designs in Council space have vanished, but human vessels passed through the same sectors untouched. Torres accessed her neural link, checking the latest reports. The numbers had nearly doubled in the hours since her presentation. 47 now, she corrected. We lost contact with a Meridian battle group 10 minutes ago. The Ancient One's patterns shifted to what Torres' interface translated as profound concern. The Meridians. Yes, they were particularly vocal about the superiority of their gravitic technology during your presentation. Recognition dawned on Torres. You're suggesting these disappearances are targeted, based on technological advancement. We are suggesting. The Ancient One's thoughts felt careful, measured, that there is something out there that hunts sophistication, something that sees elegance as prey. A memory surfaced in Torres' mind, her grandfather's stories of Earth's evolutionary history. Like the giant ground sloths, she murmured. The Ancient One's patterns registered curiosity. Explain. On Earth, there were massive, powerful animals called giant ground sloths. They were sophisticated, complex social structures, highly developed behaviors. But they went extinct while smaller, seemingly less advanced creatures survived. Sometimes being sophisticated makes you vulnerable. Yes, the Ancient One's patterns brightened. And sometimes what appears primitive is actually perfect adaptation. Torres' neural link buzzed again. The Arcturus Collective had lost contact with their entire Third Fleet. But a human cargo hauler had just emerged from the same sector, its crew reporting nothing but standard background radiation. The Council is convening an emergency session, Torres said, reading the urgent notification. They're demanding answers about the disappearances. They are asking the wrong questions. The Ancient One's patterns swirled faster. They seek to understand what is hunting their ships. They should be asking why it cannot see yours. What do you know about this threat? Torres asked, her voice tight with tension. We know that it has happened before. Long ago, when the galaxy was younger. We know that entire civilizations vanished, their elegant technologies making them bright beacons for something that feeds on sophistication itself. The patterns dimmed slightly. We know that some survived by embracing simplicity, by stepping backward to move forward. Torres thought of the human fleet, with its ballistic weapons and chemical engines, technology that the Council saw as crude, inefficient, primitive. Technology that somehow made them invisible to an ancient hunter. The Council will never accept this, she said. Their entire civilization is built on technological advancement, the idea that their sophistication is a weakness. They will accept it. The Ancient One's patterns pulsed with certainty, or they will vanish. Already the pattern is clear. Those who scorned your ships are the first to disappear. Pride makes the brightest target. Torres' neural link chimed once more. The Drachnid delegation, the ones who had turned their backs during her presentation, had gone silent. Their entire diplomatic vessel, with all its advanced stealth systems and quantum shields, had simply ceased to exist. We need to warn them, Torres said, already turning to leave. The Council needs to understand what they're facing. Yes, the Ancient One agreed. But first, they must understand what they are not facing. Your primitive ships hold the key not because of what they can do, but because of what they cannot. As Torres hurried back toward the council chamber, she realized humanity's greatest weakness had become their greatest strength. In a galaxy where sophistication attracted death, their technological limitations were a shield of invisibility. The question was whether the proud species of the Galactic Council could swallow their pride long enough to learn from humanity's primitive ways. Their survival might depend on their ability to take a step backward into safety. The emergency council session erupted into chaos the moment Admiral Torres presented her findings. The vast chamber, usually a model of sophisticated diplomatic discourse, devolved into a cacophony of translated arguments and accusations. Impossible. High Commander Zixtel's voice cut through the din. You expect us to believe that our advanced technology, the pinnacle of galactic achievement, is making us vulnerable to some ancient predator. Torres stood firm at the podium, the latest disappearance reports scrolling across her neural link. The evidence is undeniable. 63 ships lost in the past 12 hours, all of them equipped with the most advanced propulsion and weapon systems. Meanwhile, every human vessel operating on what you call primitive technology remains unaffected. Correlation is not causation. The Meridian Ambassador's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. Perhaps your species is somehow complicit in these disappearances, using this crisis to force your inferior technology upon us. The chamber grew quiet as a new figure emerged from the shadows. The Quantum Collective representative floated forward, its pattern of lights forming what Torres had learned to recognize as their most serious configuration. We have confirmed the human's hypothesis. The Ancient One's thoughts resonated through the chamber. Our archives speak of a similar pattern, from a time before many of your species had achieved spaceflight. We called them the Devourers of Light. Holoprojectors activated, filling the chamber with images that made Torres' blood run cold. Entire star systems going dark, their advanced civilizations vanishing without a trace. Elegant ships, far more sophisticated than anything the current council possessed, being swallowed by patches of space that seemed to hunger for complexity itself. But what are they? A younger race's representative asked, their tentacles twisting in anxiety. They are evolution's answer to technological arrogance, the Ancient One replied. Entities that evolved to feed on advanced energy signatures, drawn to the most sophisticated systems like moths to flame. Your graviton lances, quantum shields, and hyperdrive signatures might as well be dinner bells. Torres activated her own presentation. We've analyzed the radiation patterns from the sectors where ships disappeared. Look at this energy spectrum analysis. The display showed two distinct patterns, one a complex weave of advanced ship signatures, another a relatively simple pattern from human vessels. Our technology, which you dismissed as primitive, produces emissions that register as little more than background noise. And you propose we what? Zixtel demanded. Abandon millennia of technological progress. Reduce ourselves to throwing rocks in space. No, Torres replied, her voice steady. We propose a joint investigation, a task force combining your understanding of advanced technology with our alternative approach. We need to study these entities, find their weaknesses, and develop countermeasures that don't rely on energy signatures they can track. The chamber erupted again, but this time with a different tone. Species that had proudly displayed their technological superiority now faced an enemy that turned that very pride into a fatal weakness. The debate shifted from whether to accept human help to how quickly it could be implemented. The Terran Vanguard will lead the investigation, Torres continued. We'll retrofit several of our ships with minimal council technology, just enough to study these entities without attracting them. We need volunteers from each major species, scientists willing to step back from their advanced systems and work with what you consider primitive tools. And if we refuse, the Meridian Ambassador's voice carried a hint of desperation. The Ancient One's patterns swirled meaningfully. Then you will join the others who vanished, your sophisticated ships serving as beacons for the hunters. Already they move closer to populated systems. Time grows short. Torres watched as the proud council species struggled with their new reality. The same representatives who had laughed at human technology hours earlier now looked at her with something approaching desperation. "We'll begin immediately," she announced. "Our first mission launches in 6 hours. We'll be investigating the last known coordinates of the Drachnid diplomatic vessel. Any species willing to participate should send their volunteers to Docking Bay 7. As the chamber slowly emptied, Torres received a private communication from the Ancient One. They move faster now, drawn by the concentration of advanced technology in Council space. The species that survive will be those who learn to embrace simplicity. The question is whether they can learn quickly enough." Torres looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's transparent dome. Somewhere out there, humanity's primitive technology had accidentally created the perfect camouflage against an ancient threat. Now they had to teach the galaxy's most advanced species how to take a step backward into the shadows before the hunters arrived in force. The Terran vanguard, Horizon, drifted silently through the debris field where the Drachnid diplomatic vessel had last been seen. Its chemical engines cold, running on minimal power, the ship seemed almost primitive compared to the sophisticated Council vessels that usually patrolled these sectors. But that was exactly why it still existed. Admiral Torres stood on the bridge, surrounded by an unlikely crew. Zixtal himself had volunteered to join the mission, his pride giving way to desperate curiosity. The Meridian scientist, crystalline path to understanding, hummed quietly in her containment field, analyzing data through deliberately downgraded sensors. Even the quantum collective had sent a small fragment of itself, contained in what looked like an ancient mechanical computer. Another energy signature, reported Lieutenant Sarah Chen from the sensor station. Same pattern as the others. Complex technological emissions, suddenly terminating in nothing. "Show me," Torres ordered. The holographic display flickered to life, deliberately projected using simple light rather than the quantum holograms favored by the Council. It showed the final moments of dozens of ships, their sophisticated energy signatures blazing like beacons before simply ceasing to exist. "Fascinating," Zixtal muttered, all 12 eyes fixed on the display. The more advanced the ship, the more quickly it was targeted. Our finest battle cruisers barely lasted seconds, while smaller vessels with older technology survived several minutes longer. "Look at this," Crystalline Path interrupted, her crystalline form vibrating with excitement. The display shifted to show a comparative analysis. Human vessels produce energy signatures that almost perfectly mimic natural space phenomena. Your fusion drives match the output of small stars. Your communication systems blend with background radiation. Even your weapon systems are invisible because they're so simple. Torres finished. No exotic particles, no quantum fields, nothing that stands out against the natural background of space. We didn't design them that way intentionally. We simply never developed the technology to do anything more advanced. The quantum collective's mechanical avatar whirred to life. This matches our ancient records. The civilizations that survived the first coming of the Devourers were those who had either never developed quantum technology or those who deliberately regressed to simpler systems. But most species couldn't accept the need to step backward. A new alert pinged on Chen's console. "Admiral, we're detecting something at the edge of sensor range. It's different." The display showed a patch of space that seemed to bend and twist, distorting the starlight behind it. As they watched, it moved with purpose, flowing through the debris field like a predator searching for prey. "Power down everything but life support and passive sensors," Torres ordered. The bridge dimmed as systems went dark. "Let's see if our theory holds." The creature, Torres couldn't think of it as anything else, drifted closer. Now they could see its true form through their simplified sensors. A construct of pure energy, evolved to detect and consume complex technological signatures. It passed within kilometers of the horizon, showing no more interest in their ship than it did in the surrounding space debris. "Incredible," Zixtal whispered. "It cannot see us. All our advanced technology, our centuries of progress, and we made ourselves into prey. While we remained hidden in plain sight, Torres finished. Our primitive technology is our camouflage. The very limitations that the Council mocked are what make us invisible to these things. The Quantum Collective's avatar processed this information. We must begin immediately. All Council species must be taught to operate Simplify technology. Ships must be retrofitted with human equivalent systems. Everything that makes us visible to the Devourers must be stripped away or shielded. But our civilizations depend on advanced technology. Crystalline Path protested. Our life support, our communications, our very societies will adapt or die. Torres said firmly. We'll help you develop hybrid systems, advanced technology hidden behind simpler facades. But first, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. She turned to Lieutenant Chen. Prepare a probe. Something simple. Chemical rockets, passive sensors, no quantum technology. Let's see if we can follow this thing back to its source. As the crew prepared the probe, Torres watched the energy creature continue its hunt through the debris field. Humanity had spent centuries feeling inferior to the Council races, struggling to catch up to their level of technology. Now that very struggle had given them the tools needed to survive this crisis. The probe launched silently, its primitive systems making it as invisible to the Devourers as the horizon itself. As it followed the creature into the darkness, Torres couldn't help but appreciate the irony. Humanity's greatest limitation had become the galaxy's greatest hope for survival. The end.